In south central Ohio, there's an enormous effigy mound. It's called the Serpent Mound. It's in the shape of a snake. It was built by ancient Native Americans. For a long time, it's been a question of who built it and what does it mean. In this video, we're going to explore the Serpent Mound, and I'll give you my theory of what the Serpent Mound was intended to mean. So here's an aerial picture of what the Serpent Mound looks like. It's along a hill. There's a coil for a snake. It's about 1,300 feet long, ending with it appears to be swallowing an egg or other round object. It's a little better diagram of it. So it's a coil and then the snake head. Now, over the years, people have wondered what it means. And there's also a question of whether is it swallowing an egg, is it swallowing some other animal or a frog or who knows what. Here's a couple of more pictures of it. So from the ground, this is what it looks like. The effigy, it's about 3 foot high mounds that go down the hill. And it's an interesting site to visit. There's a museum on the site. It's located in south central Ohio. So going to Google Earth, well, now take a quick look at the Serpent Mound. Again, this is the Serpent Mound, what it looks like, and just placing it in context of some other sites I've done related to Book of Mormon geography. And my geography would fit this south central Ohio area in the land of Zarahemla. I have the city of Zarahemla sort of in that Chillicothe, Ohio area. The Serpent Mound is near there. I'll just pull back out so you can see the eastern United States and how I have the geography fit there. Now at the Serpent Mound, there are some signs that point to the lining up of the effigy mound with solstices. So this is one of the marker signs that's there. It talks about how the serpent head points towards the summer solstice sunset. And then the coils, the center can point to the summer solstice sunrise, the equinox sunrise, and the winter solstice sunrise. It's an unknown purpose why they had it line up, but it shows their sophistication and interest in that. If you go to the Wikipedia site about the Serpent Mound, again, it's over 1,300 feet long, 3 foot high. And originally, there was a question of when it was built. In the 1990s, they did a first set of carbon dating for it. Unfortunately, when they did the carbon dating, they tested in a portion of the mound where there was likely a contamination related to later use. And so originally they said that they thought the mound was built around 1000 AD. Subsequent carbon dating shows that it was actually built around 300 BC. So as it says here, there had been a dispute which culture and people had created the Serpent Mound. Originally in the 1990s, they had said that it was built around 1100 AD. But when they did new radiocarbon dates in 2014, it showed up around 300 in the 300s BC. And then in 2019, they did additional carbon dates and it corroborated the 2014 dates, but gave a little bit newer dates, so somewhere between the 300s BC to up to 100 BC. The 300 BC time frame would put it in the Mulekite time frame before they met up with the Nephites. The Nephites met the Mulekites, according to the Book of Mormon, around 150 BC approximately. Here's the 2014 article, which talks about the radiocarbon dates where they found that it fits to about 300 BC. And again, a couple of pictures of the mound. They did a number of tests and sampled and spot, and as you see, as they tested, the dates they kept getting were in the 300s BC, with a couple of older dates as well, but mostly in the 300s BC time frame. And then in 2019, when they did the dates, they said that they came out with dates that were in the 2100 to 2300 years ago, which would put it in the 100 BC to 300 BC time frame. So that's some basic information about the Serpent Mound, 300 BC. It would put it sort of in the time frame, likely of the Mulekites, or it could be the Nephites before they encountered the Mulekites, or it could be a group that's not in the Book of Mormon. But what does the mound mean? And that's a question that a lot of people have wondered about. Now, I'm going to propose one potential meaning for the Serpent Mound. To do this, it's actually going to rely a little bit on a couple of artifacts from the Burroughs Cave collection. Now, the Burroughs Cave collection is a number of artifacts purporting to be Native American artifacts. They were found in the 90s by Russell Burroughs in a cave in Illinois. There are a lot of people that question the authenticity of a number of the artifacts. I personally believe that there are some genuine artifacts and a mix of some forgeries mixed into those. At some point, I'll do a video detailing those beliefs a little bit more, but there are some artifacts from the Burroughs Cave that have information that I don't think could have been forged by Russell Burroughs, and have information that fits and corroborates Book of Mormon issues. Now, Russell Burroughs was not a member of the Mormon Church, not at all. And but let me show you a couple of artifacts that come from this. Now, if you go to the Burroughs Cave .io website that's maintained by Book of Mormon Heartland, my friend Brian Nettles, on that site, he has images of a number of artifacts that are from the Burroughs Cave. So if you go to this burroughscave.io website, and I'm going to point to a couple of the images in the John White collection of Burroughs Cave's artifact that relate to this. And one of them in particular is a rock that has engraved on it. It's this rock, and this is a drawing out more clearly what's showing on the rock. I'll go ahead and click it for you. So this is image 212 of it. And as you can see on it, it shows what appears to be a Phoenician type ship, and with sort of a head that looks maybe a little bit like a serpent. And then on essentially a sail for it, there's a couple of images. One is a serpent appearing to swallow an egg, which is just like what is on the Serpent Mound, together with what appears to be a menorah. Now, this in my interpretation would represent the Mulekites, with the Phoenicians coming over with the Jewish people. But this is one of the things in that collection. Again, here it shows the serpents swallowing the egg. And this shows up more than once in the artifacts. Let me jump to, I think it was around 225, 226. There's a similar one. Also a ship, a Phoenician type ship. This is the rock with a drawing, and this illustrates it a little better. Again, sort of a serpent type head for the ship. And then on it, it looks like serpent swallowing a large ball or egg. The placement of these on the ship would indicate that this is a representation of the people. And I think that the meaning of the Serpent Mound was a representation of the people. Now, this also shows up in a couple of other artifacts from the Burroughs Cave, which include some map rocks. Let me show you one of those. So, for example, in image 146 from John White's collection of the Burroughs Cave, you see this is a rock with what appears to be a map depicting the Great Lakes on it, better depicted over here. And what you see over here is there are places marking locations with what appears to be a snake symbol similar to what's on the Serpent Mound. And it's sort of made like these indicate locations populated by that people. And I'll note in the Ontario area, there's another effigy mound that is somewhat similar to the Serpent Mound, but smaller. One of the Native American tribes that has sort of adopted and claimed the Serpent Mound as relating to their heritage is the Shawnee tribe. And at the site, there's some indications they have quotes from the Shawnee tribe. Now, the Shawnee tribe, they think that the Serpent Mound relates to a story from their uh, origin story, their folklore. This is one of the markers, signs that they have at the Serpent Mound. And as it says here, it's the Shawnee and the King of the Serpents. So, let me read it to you. It says, so according to Tenskawatawa, often referred to as the Shawnee prophet, when the first Shawnee people came to this land many thousands of years ago, several warriors were lost when they were taken beneath the sea on the back of an immense turtle. So let me just point out that the Shawnee origin story is that several thousand years ago, they came to this land coming across the sea. They describe it as coming across the sea on the back of a turtle. In a couple of different Native American origin and migration stories, they describe traveling on a back of a turtle or this turtle imagery and what it seemed to indicate boats. So you have the idea that they came across the sea in their migration story on boats. And then it says that they were about to go beneath the sea. It says they fasted, sang, and prayed for several days and nights. And then they were saved in coming across the sea. I note that you can see echoes and remnants of the migration story here. As you know, the Mulekites and the Nephites were combined, would have had slightly different migration stories, but both would have been across the sea. This particular part of the migration story sounds a lot like in First Nephi when they're traveling across the sea. They were about to drown, and then they had to repent, essentially pray and fast, and then they're saved and able to come safely. Another aspect of the Shawnee story is that they gave a sacrifice, an animal sacrifice each year uh, to give thanks for their safe arrival in this land. And that matches what is found in the Book of Mormon when they land and Lehi makes an altar and gives a sacrifice of thanks for them making it safely to the promised land. As said in this sort of AI overview of the Shawnee um, legend of their ancestors coming across the water to this continent, as it says here, they could not cross it. They prayed for help. They miraculously made it to the native North American continent, and then they hold an annual sacrifice that they gave for many years to give thanks for the safe arrival of their ancestors. Now, in the Shawnee legend, the miraculous coming across the sea relates to a what's sometimes called the King of the Serpents or the Horned Serpent. If you'll recall from that marker at the Serpent Mound site, it looked a little bit like this, where you have a serpent with wings on the back. Now, I want you to just think for a minute. And I recently went to the Serpent Mound with my sister and some friends. And one of the friends noticed that the marker about the Shawnee legend and the serpent looked a lot like a boat, and indeed it does. If you look at the Shawnee legend related to it, it looks a lot like a boat with sails. So going back to the marker again, so it says the King of the Serpents based on this is an engraving from Moundville, Alabama, depicting the serpent. If you look at it, it really does look like a boat. And so this is related to drawings at Moundville. Here's another one from Moundville, Alabama, which is a Lamanite, basically a site, a post-Book of Mormon Lamanite kind of site. And it's they call it a winged serpent, but again with a similar look. This one is from the Spiro Mound in Oklahoma, very very similar look. But they each show this sort of serpent look, and when you go back and look at again from the Burroughs artifact, it looks very much similar. Okay, and we'll go ahead and stop the share there. So as you can see from the information I presented, the Shawnee tribe claims the Serpent Mound is relating to their origin and migration story, and I think that that is correct. They tie the Serpent Mound to this horned or king of the serpents that helped them to safely arrive in the Americas across the sea. And that is correct. Now, what the Burroughs Cave artifacts help us to see is that if those are authentic, it points to the serpent swallowing the egg as, in addition, being a symbol of the people who crossed with the crossing over with the Jews. I think that the Mulekites were a Phoenician people that crossed over with the Jews. The serpent swallowing the egg was in particular a symbol for the Phoenicians that came over with the Jews and then became a symbol for the Mulekite people, built around 300 BC in the land of Zarahemla, which is where the Serpent Mound is. And that the building of that serpent mound shows there as a marker and an emblem for their people. And then over time, because their ships looked a little bit like a serpent, it ties into the migration story, which originates from the true story from the Book of Mormon, but there's echoes of it in the Shawnee tradition, is what I would say, that are still showing that miraculous crossing across the oceans to get to the Americas, and then followed by the sacrifices that they had to give thanks for that safe crossing. So that's my understanding of what the Serpent Mound is when it was built, 300 BC by the Mulekites, and what it meant, which is as a symbol of the Mulekite people and also emblematic of their crossing to the Americas. Let me know your thoughts and comments. Thanks.